Hello there, YouTube. I want to make this video just because I want to post something. I think it's been 9 days since my last video. And the fact that I'm struggling to put out videos, if anything, reinforces what this video is about. I wanted to make a video discussing the question of socialism and responding to people who had been in my comment section in the Change My Mind video. I still plan to make that video. I still plan to make a lot of videos. I've got more than a dozen videos that I want to make at the moment on various different topics about politics, current affairs, news, reading, media, and culture in general. I've got quite a lot of different topics I'd like to cover, and I think that they will be interesting videos if I ever actually get to make them. I have a lot to say, and the problem is that whilst I've got a lot to say, I never seem to have the time to say any of it, and that's what I'm here to talk about today, because I left a comment on a YouTube video at some point this week. Exactly when is hard to pinpoint, and that will become apparent in a moment. It is Friday the that still says September, that calendar. It's Friday the something, I think 17th. I can't even check because I'm recording on my phone. But yeah, it's the latter half of October. And I feel like October has completely run away with itself. September was one of those months where you could tell I was on a downward trajectory just by looking at my PlayStation statistics. I would play PlayStation games casually, and you'd be able to see how many hours I put into gaming. And I would put a reasonably average amount of hours into gaming for someone who it's one of their primary hobbies. And then September hit, and I barely hit half my standard. For October, we're at the 17th of October, and I have put in 3 hours of gaming for the whole of the month so far. And I'm fairly sure one of those was, the game being on pause while I went up to the toilet and, answered the door and things like that. I barely touched the PlayStation in the entirety of October. And I had horror games planned that I wanted to play in October. I've still got them. I might still try and play at least one of them. But I had games that I was planning on playing for October. I just never got around to them. I have books that I wanted to read. I haven't touched a book in days. And it's not because I don't want to read. It's just that I don't have the energy. So what was this comment, and how does it relate to the whole socialism video? Well, one of the main parts of socialism is welfare. It's disability and things along those lines. And I am very much reliant on it. What this week has brought into sharp focus for me is the comment that I mentioned on that YouTube video where someone was saying, in response to someone who claimed to be unable to work and on disability, but seemed to be able-bodied. The comment was about how they sounded entitled, and that they should just go and get a job and things like that. And I agree, they should, because it's not just that they seemed able-bodied, it's that they also post almost daily online, and they don't appear to struggle to keep to any kind of schedule. They don't appear to have any issues with what they're doing. If they have the time to record multiple videos, edit those videos, and do whatever it is that they're talking about in those videos, they probably have enough time to do something like work from home. And they can likely consistently do something on a computer. I am very aware that I can't. And it has become more and more apparent to me just how limited my time is and how little I can pull off, how much I struggle day to day, just to exist. This week, I feel like it may as well have been a day. I had friends around on Monday. I don't recall what I did on Tuesday. I slept for most of it, I imagine. Wednesday, I was active Wednesday morning. I wrote for hours Wednesday morning because I wanted to get some writing done. I had a friend body doubling with me, helping me keep focus. And I wrote for something like 4 to 5 hours. So I got some good work in there. And then I had a migraine. And I said goodbye to the rest of Wednesday, all of Thursday. It's now Friday. And I didn't get up until 2 p.m. today. That's an example of just how bad it gets. I lose track of days. I don't remember when I've eaten. My fatigue and my chronic pain, they make it so that I can't function. It's why I can't even keep down a job working from home on a computer. It's why I've been writing my tabletop RPG and novel series for 7 years, and I'm still not really ready to publish. I'm not really close, if I'm honest. It's at least a year, probably 2 years away from being ready. And it's because whilst I want to do something useful, I want to do something productive. If I can get writing and I can get published, I could get off benefits if I could make enough money off it. I'd love to be able to do that. But I can't think of anything else I could do that could make me any money. I can't think of anything I could do that wouldn't be me using every waking moment to slave away to barely make ends meet. And that's no life, that's slavery. That's not to say that there aren't people who do slave away every waking hour and barely get what is deserved to them. There are people who work like that. There are basically wage slaves out there, and they shouldn't be doing it either. No one should live to work. They should work to live. If you're working a shitty job, if you're doing something like you're collecting bins, or you're cleaning something, or you're doing another thankless job that pays generally very little, that's not an indication that other people need to work harder because, well, you work hard. No, that's an indication that you're undervalued and you should be paid more. Society pays people who don't deserve it far too much. People who do pointless jobs where they sit at a computer and file a report and then piss about on Facebook all day get paid twice as much as someone doing an actually important job. And then there's celebrities that get paid literally millions to record a song once in the 1980s and then never bother to work again. It is frustrating. But I wanted to make this video to just ramble a little and get things off my chest. I am aware that I am reliant on the welfare system. I am disabled. I am very reliant on healthcare. I'm reliant on care in general, like home care. I am unable to work completely. Even the private work that I'm trying to do, where I'm writing my own books, I've been doing it for 7 years, and I'm no further along than I was a year. Well, that's not strictly true. I am further along. I have been doing more writing, but I don't feel like I'm really any closer to being published because there's so much work still to do. And whilst someone else might be able to write this kind of a book in 2-3 years, it's taking me 3 times that length at least. And it's demoralising at times. But I wanted to make this video because I wanted to say that I am aware that I am coming at the whole socialism perspective from a biased perspective. I know that I have a very specific outlook that is going to be informed by the fact that I'm very reliant on the state. And I want to be aware of that and I want to acknowledge that. But I also don't think that it's actually going to be a big deal. I think that I can devoid myself of that because I can imagine what it's like to not be disabled. I can imagine what it's like to need to work in order to survive, and the requirements of paying taxes and taking part in society in general. That's something I've done. When I was able-bodied, I've worked in a fair few jobs. I worked in retail. I worked as a web designer for about 6 months. I worked gardening and doing like bricklaying in gardens. I was a painter decorator for a couple of months. Wasn't very good at it, but thankfully I knew just enough to get by, thanks to my dad being one professionally. And at one point I worked as a night hygienist in an abattoir, cleaning literally blood and feces and animal bits off walls and ceilings. I don't know how it gets on the ceiling, but yeah, that is one hell of a job. If you want to know that you've got the gumption to do a proper job, work as as part of the night hygienist crew, sterilising an abattoir covered in blood and shit, and do that for night shift work, moving heavy machinery covered in blood and guts, and washing it with various chemical hoses and things like that. It is one difficult job, but shockingly rewarding, actually. I actually enjoyed that job more so than I enjoyed jobs that are arguably easier, like retail. I hated retail. So yeah. What I will say before I go into the whole socialism video and describe the politics is, first of all, I'm gonna say I'm gonna make videos, and then it might be a week before you hear from me, because as much as I really want to do YouTube, I want to engage, I want to be able to be a voice, my fatigue and my pain are making it very difficult. Sometimes my chronic fatigue makes me sleep for days on end. Sometimes my pain means I can't get out of bed. And I cannot reliably say that I'm going to make the next video, even when I really want to. But also, I want to say that whilst I describe the benefits of socialism, and when I describe how socialism is a better system all round for everyone, I also want to make it very apparent that I know that a lot of people act like entitled little shits. I know that there are a lot of people who think that the government owes them something. I also know that when you're working and you don't seem like you're getting much out of the state, but you're paying a massive amount in taxes, it often feels thankless. It often feels like the government's just taking your money off you for no good reason. What I want to say is this is the reason. And I am incredibly thankful. If you work and pay taxes, and this principle goes for those people outside of the UK as well, because there will be someone like me in your country. So if you're in America or Australia or New Zealand or Germany or France or Japan or anywhere else that has any kind of welfare system, if you work and you pay taxes, you are directly responsible for the dignity of people in my situation who have very little else. Now, I have hobbies and interests. I get to play video games. I get to collect fancy books and things like that. I have not just a bare bones lifestyle, but a comfortable lifestyle. Not very comfortable. I'm not middle class by any stretch of the imagination. I live in a small house, and I live equivalent of paycheck to paycheck. I don't have a lot of money. I do have to scrape by, and I do feel the cost of living crisis. But I would have zero money if it wasn't for the welfare system and taxes, and the fact that it is considered to be reasonable that the welfare system will pay me enough that I can engage in hobbies, I can have interests, I can have leisure time, that I'm allowed to not just subsist on the basic, here's some boiled rice and some basic nutrition. Here's a roof over your head and a mattress. You get to exist, and that's it. The fact that we agree that's not enough, that we should at least allow people to have a worthwhile life. I'm very thankful for that. So I want to make sure that people are aware when I describe things in the future. I know I'm coming from a position of both privilege and a position of bias. I know I'm coming from a position of someone who is benefiting heavily from the system. But I'd like to think that anyone watching knows that I am very aware of this, very thankful for it, but also that I am going to try to devoid myself from that situation to describe the actual politics involved. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to explain why I genuinely think that this is the best system, and why, even if I switch places with a millionaire tomorrow who is completely able-bodied, I would still want the system of welfare we have, or possibly greater, because I do think that the socialism systems in place are better than the alternative. And I will explain those more in the socialism video that I plan to make, which is going to take the expectations of what is right wing and left wing and turn them on their head. Because you'll be surprised just how many things on the left aren't truly socialist. They're just performative nonsense and progressivism, and how many things that are considered quite right wing, quite community driven right wing, are actually socialism in its purest form. So I'll talk about those in a future video. I might try and make a couple more videos while I've got the tripod set up and I'm feeling comfortable and relaxed before I end up falling asleep again. I should probably eat something before I do anything else, but thanks for listening, and I'll try not to leave quite so much time between now and the next videos. What I will try to do is when I'm feeling well like I am right now, I may spend an hour or two and record a few videos back to back, so that I can, by batch recording, that way I can upload one every 2 to 3 days, and you can still get videos semi-regularly without these long gaps. Anyway, thanks for listening to me ramble, and thanks for understanding. And one last time, to everyone out there paying taxes and paying into the system, truly, thank you. I wouldn't be here without you, and my life would be worthless without the contributions you make. It would be a drudgery of basic survival. It is because of people who pay into the tax system that I have any dignity at all, and not enough people ever thank you for it. Most people just expect it. Most people say, well, I'm entitled. You're not entitled to anything in this world. It is by the grace of others that I get to live any life of dignity at all, and it does not go unnoticed. More people in my position should be willing to say thank you. Maybe people would begrudge their tax bill less if they knew just how many people it helps. Anyway, I've been rambling on for almost 20 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.